Welcome back, vinyl community. Reggae Spotlight time. Looking at the man called Delroy Wilson. Supremely soulful voice of the man called Delroy Wilson. Considered one of Jamaica's finest singers. This is from the 1982 LP called Go Away Dream for producer Bunny Lee. Pressure Sounds reissue from 2017. I probably showed this in a previous video. Was just listening to this again the other day and got inspired to make a quick video. Delroy Wilson was born 1948, Kingston, Jamaica. Started singing very young in grade school. By the age of 12, he was auditioning for Clement Seymour Coxsone Dodd of Studio One, one of the greatest producers in Jamaica at that time. Was given 5 shillings and told to come back, and then his recording career began. One of the very first songs he recorded was called Spit in the Sky. It was the lyrics of that were aimed at various producers that were troubling Coxsone Dodd at that time. This was a time when the various producers of Jamaica were at musical war with each other, issuing lyrical shots on their records. That song was aimed at Prince Buster, then the upstart producer at the time. Delroy Wilson continued recording for Coxsone Dodd for much of the 1960s. That was 1961 he began his recording career. Issued his debut LP a few years later. Do not have that one. This is what it looks like. I Shall Not Remove. Again, lyrics aimed at upstart producers, troubling Studio One. As the story tended to go, he spent a few years recording for Studio One, cranked out many classic hits through the ska and rocksteady years of the 1960s. Songs like Trying to Conquer Me, Riding for a Fall, Run for Your Life. These were compiled on an LP in the early 70s called Original 12, Best of Delroy Wilson. I don't have an original. I have a 1978 reissue on the United Artists label. They issued a whole series of these in the late 70s, issuing original reggae LPs in this kind of artwork. Some like it. I find it kind of tacky, ugly. But Studio One recordings here. Tom Moulton is credited as an engineer on here, so I guess some kind of remixing has gone on. Nothing too obtrusive to my ears. So Studio One classics there. Following his time at Studio One, Delroy Wilson began the usual freelancing from producer to producer, trying to find a better economic deal where he'd be treated fairly. Of course, the classic story, these artists would record song after song, get very little pay. I teamed up with another artist called Stranger Cole to form a label called W&C, short-lived. Teamed up with various other artists to form a kind of collective called The Lynx. That too collapsed after a while. Recorded for various producers like Sonia Pottinger. Finally started working extensively with a producer named Bunny Striker Lee, with whom he cranked out a classic series of hits through the 70s. In 1974, he had a hit with a song called Have Some Mercy. This is it right here. Have Some Mercy, Delroy Wilson on the DJ label, credited to producer Ainsley Folder. This was a cover version of the US soul hit by William Bell called I Forgot to Be Your Lover. It was first covered in Jamaica by Lee Perry, his production, with his rhythm track, and a singer called Shenley Doofus. And then this producer, Ainsley Folder, got a cut of Lee Perry's original rhythm track and had Delroy Wilson cut his version of the song. Ended up outperforming Lee Perry's version. Lee Perry didn't take too kindly to that, and later revisited the rhythm with another singer called George Faith, doing the same song over again in the Black Ark years. Delroy Wilson also recorded for producer Lloyd Charmers. Put out the classic Sarge LP, 1976, I believe, on this one, on the Charmers label. Classic cuts, revisiting some of his earlier hits, and just supremely sublime versions of songs like I'm Still Waiting, My Conversation, originally done by Slim Smith, Moving Away, done by Ken Booth. Just by now, his voice had settled into the supremely soulful, kind of brandy flavored, just nice, warm, and easy. It's the best way I can describe it. Supremely soulful. Continued his association with Bunny Lee, putting out hits like Cool Operator, one of his nicknames, Delroy Wilson, the Cool Operator. This appeared on EJ label, Bunny Lee production, UK pressing, 1977. Put out some 12-inch singles, got a few here. Dancing Mood, again an update of one of his earlier hits, appeared on the UK Third World label. By now he was making inroads into the UK scene, then a very lucrative market for reggae, as well as freelancing for producers in Jamaica. What Is Man on Lloyd Coxon's Tribesman label out of the UK, actually a Jack Ruby production in Jamaica. And again on the Jamaican press, I'll Never Hurt You, Channel 1, then the classic reggae studio with its rockers sound, ruling the Jamaican dance halls and the airwaves. Also in the mid to late 70s, Delroy Wilson was name-checked by The Clash on their song White Man in Hammersmith Palais. Continued working extensively with Bunny Lee, putting out the album called Go Away Dream, reissued by Pressure Sounds. Dub version, or some of the dub versions, also appeared on an LP called Dubbing in the Backyard. Again, this is the Pressure Sounds reissue on CD. The CD includes the Go Away Dream as a bonus disc. The dub versions of this, Dubbing in the Backyard, marked the final collaboration between Bunny Lee, Prince Jammy doing the dub mixing at King Tubby's studio. So those three titans would part ways after that LP. Prince Jammy was increasingly producing on his own, and King Tubby took exception to that, reportedly changed the locks on the studio to shut him out, and Prince Jammy ended up on his own recording career, eventually being crowned king in 1985. King Tubby, of course, murdered senselessly in the late 80s. Also, a nice compilation of Delroy Wilson productions appeared on Pressure Sounds a few years ago, 2009. It's called Dubplate Style. It's based on a LP from UK producer Count Shelley, which is called 20 Golden Hits. But perhaps the biggest hit of Delroy Wilson's career was a song called Better Must Come, which appeared in 1972. The original lyrics were kind of a comment on his frustration with his inability to receive fair compensation for his work from the various producers in Jamaica. It was adopted by Michael Manley's People's National Party, socialist-leaning party, in the 1972 Jamaican general election. Reportedly was such an effective campaign song that it influenced the election, and Michael Manley did win. So Delroy Wilson is forever associated with that song, Better Must Come. So this is my look at Delroy Wilson. He continued recording sporadically through the 80s, unfortunately fell into alcohol abuse, and passed away from cirrhosis of the liver in 1995, reportedly of a combination of frustration at his inability to reap his rewards through the music business, and a broken heart, it's been quoted as, by artists like Junior Delgado. Delroy Wilson, one of the great Jamaican voices. I'm going to leave you with that big hit, Better Must Come, Hope you've enjoyed my look at Delroy Wilson. Cheers, guys. Can't conquer me. Cheers, VC.